Please welcome UN Secretary General Special Envoy on Climate, Ambition and Solutions, co-chair of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, and founder of Bloomberg Philanthropies and Bloomberg LP, Michael R. Bloomberg.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. For those of you traveling from around the world, welcome to New York City. There are more than 200 languages spoken in the city, and over my 12 years as mayor, I became fluent in every single one of them. I would prove it to you now, but I'm a little bit out of practice, so you'll let me jump to something that's a little more believable than that. Seriously, we have an outstanding group here from across the public and private sectors. And let me give a special welcome to the President of Montenegro, who is here with us. And I know that some of you were with us this afternoon right here at the Plaza when we hosted the Earthshot Summit. It was a prize created by Prince William back in 2020, and our company and foundation have been glad to provide support and partnership since the beginning. And I will say, before this, I did not know princes on a first-name basis, but I've watched this guy, and he's done a spectacular job in making a very big difference in fighting climate change. He's got these young people coming along with great ideas, and he's been able to give them some publicity and some funding and the opportunity to take their ideas to industry, and he's making a very big difference. And one of the ways to identify some of the most promising entrepreneurs and inventors to work on climate change is raising their profile, supporting their work, and connecting them to funding so that they can scale up, and he is doing all of those things. We named this year's finalists today, and it was really so exciting to see all the work they're doing. In addition to helping to cut emissions, they're also helping to improve people's lives in ways that we can only begin to imagine today. But the truth is, we don't need to wait for a breakthrough, new innovation, or discovery to win the battle against climate change. What we have to do is use the tools that we have, and we have to use them much more effectively than we have been doing. Changing that and turning the tide on climate change is not a technological challenge, I don't think. For the most part, it is a financial challenge, and overcoming it is what this forum is really all about. Just think, the price of solar and wind power has plummeted, and faster than almost anyone predicted just a few years ago. In a vast majority of the world, they're already cheaper than fossil fuels. Investing in wind and solar hit record highs this year. Electric vehicles have hit a new record high as well, and more governments and businesses have made commitments to reach net zero emissions. But that's the good news. The bad news is we're still not making progress fast enough, and that's especially true in developing countries that have some of the most potential for clean energy, but are receiving the least investment, and where communities that have contributed the least to the climate crisis can now face some of the most severe impacts. These are fixable problems, though, and we can fix them working together. And Bloomberg Philanthropies are committed to doing our part, including by bringing the most transparency and accountability to the fight against climate change, which really is a crucial piece of the puzzle. Financial markets are the most powerful force for progress that humanity has invented, but only if people have the data and information they need to make informed decisions. And that was the driving principle behind the launch of Bloomberg more than 40 years ago. And our company has continued growing because there has always been a demand for reliable data. And for too long, companies and investors didn't have reliable information about the risks of climate change or about the emissions that are driving it. Fortunately, over the past few years, that has begun to change, and in a major way. It's one of the most important shifts in the fight against climate change, and the momentum, I'm happy to say, is building. And I just wanted to give you a sense of that shift. About a decade ago, Bloomberg started funding a small group called the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. And one of the key goals was to improve how companies measure and report climate risk. And that effort got off to a big boost when the G20 created a task force on climate-related financial disclosures. At Bloomberg, we've always said if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so the management part really is what we're striving for, but the measurement is what we've got to do. In 2017, the task force released recommendations for reporting corporate climate risks and opportunities, and they've now been endorsed by over 4,700 organizations around the world and across the public and private sectors both. TCFD, as it's called, is now the global framework for climate disclosure, which more and more countries are requiring. So in just a few years, climate risk disclosure went from being an issue that world leaders were talking about to growing acceptance around the world. And we're seeing the same kind of momentum when it comes to the next critical step in this work, and that is helping banks create feasible plans for reaching their net zero commitments. Now, I know many of your firms are part of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, for which I'm lucky enough to serve as chair, along with Mark Carney. Our group is helping financial firms calculate emissions across their portfolios and then figure out how to cut them in ways that also grow the economy and create jobs. It is complicated work, as you might expect, and it does not get a lot of headlines, but it can make an enormous difference if people have all the data that they need to do it. And to make sure that they do, our company is working with partners to build a secure new resource called the Net Zero Public Data Utility. It will bring data on corporate emissions together in one place for the first time and make it freely accessible to financial markets, regulators, and to the public. It's being led by an outstanding steering committee of leaders in global finance, many of whom are with us today. So there's reason to be optimistic. We really can turn a page in the months ahead. Leaders understanding the urgency of this work are committed to working together to get it done. And today it is my pleasure to introduce to you someone who has really been at the front of the pack. She has been one of the world's most important voices for ensuring that climate risk is recognized as financial risk. She is a pioneering leader on climate change, and as the first woman to chair the Federal Reserve and to lead the U.S. Treasury, her pragmatic leadership has done a lot to keep our nation's economy strong and made her an invaluable partner to nations around the world. She is a voice of reason who's not afraid to tell it like it is, and that is no surprise since she comes from Brooklyn. She also happens to be one of the nicest people that you've ever met. We're honored to have her with us today. She is one of the great public servants that this country has created. Please welcome Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen.